Hello and welcome to a Bet Racing Nation YouTube exclusive. My name is Luke Elder. I'm here with Peter Finch, and we're going to be discussing some more of the pressing matters in horse racing this week, starting with Tigruda, who, as we all know by now, isn't going for the Irish Oaks anymore and is going for the King George instead on the 26th. What do we make of that?
Well, he's taken a penalty, potentially going to take a penalty kick, and now she's going to be taking a free kick. It's one of those, isn't it? In as much that, look, she was odds on for the big race. More competitive than the Irish Derby, let's say.
Yeah.
But there are reasons, obviously, why the owners have decided to go down this route. Obviously, towards the end of the season, maybe one more race after this, but they're going to retire. The daughter of Sea the Stars will be retired at the end of the season, and this is a prestigious race. And basically, it's 567,000 to the winner, so it's a no-brainer, really.
We've got a quote from Angus Gold, Sheikh Hamdan's Al Maktoum's racing manager. Tigruda will be retired to stud at the end of this year, and Sheikh Hamdan thought he would like to take his chance in the big one. She's in good form, and she gets plenty of weight from the older horses, and that is a big thing, isn't it? The weight from the older horses, you get the sex allowance and the weight allowance from horses like Telescope, who was very, very impressive at Royal Ascot, but would Telescope still have something to prove?
I was very impressed with the way Telescope ran last time, and that would be my pick. Obviously, we're sort of a week or so away from the race. I mean, 3-year-olds this season, I mean, we saw in the Eclipse, didn't we, that Kingston Hill struggled. We had Night of Thunder that struggled, taking on older horses. And you know, whilst we were sort of watching the Oaks and thinking, oh, fantastic, this is a true test. We've got also like Magician in the race as well. So it's going to be a test, and I think it's a brave call. Yeah.
Do you think maybe taking on the older horses isn't right for Tigruda at this time in her career, or do you think she's more than capable?
Time will tell, won't it? You know, we'll know after the King George VI, but I mean, it's certainly brave. I mean, we've got McAdram, who will probably run in the race as well, obviously trained by William Haggis, but same owners. So I wonder whether they will take McAdram to that race or not. I sense that they may not.
There was a bit of doubt whether McAdram would actually stay this trip, wasn't there? And you can get a little bit where that has come from, but for me, I wouldn't be worried about it at all. Out of the whole race?
Yeah.
I am actually a big fan of Tigruda. I was looking at prices for her to win the Arc earlier on in the week, and I think she's about 14 to 1. Whether I'd be taking that, I'm not too sure, but let's not forget 3-year-old fillies have a fantastic record in the Arc. 7 to 2, 4 to 1, I think is about the general price about Tigruda for the King George. I think that is a backable price.
Well, I'm going to go with Telescope, so there you go.
I've backed Telescope way too many times this season.
And no, I mean, I think it was a nearly horse, but I think the way Telescope won last time, I think, you know, Michael Stout's got a really good one there.
Yeah, but he comes under the ground-dependent horses for me.
But it does shake up the prices for the Irish Oaks now, and we've got,
for sure, yeah.
You know, we've got Aidan O'Brien, who as ever enters probably every filly that he's got into the race. Yeah. Not quite, but obviously there's a number in there. I mean, I like Marvellous.
That would be his best chance, wouldn't it, with Marvellous?
Yeah.
He's also got Bracelet in there, he's got Palace in there, he's got Tapestry in there. So he's not short-handed by any means at all. But he hasn't got the favourite, who is Tarfasha, who is also owned by Sheikh Hamdan. So
if you had a match bet between Tarfasha and Volume, where would you go?
Oh, that's a tough... If you had said Marvellous, I'd have gone for Tarfasha.
I don't know.
But Tarfasha and Volume are the two that I liked. Volume obviously ran a fantastic race at Epsom in the Epsom Oaks. Tarfasha, I probably would have to side with Tarfasha. I just really like her attitude, the way she goes through races. But I'm a big fan of Volume as well. But you really like Marvellous.
I do, but that would be based on the ground. There are a number of thunderstorms forecast, heavy rain forecast. You wouldn't believe it in the middle of a heat wave. But if the rain comes, I would be on Marvellous, yes. Disappointed with the run at Epsom, to be honest with you. You know, I thought it might be a Marvellous Australia double, which would have been a great story, but it wasn't.
You got half it up anyway.
Absolutely. But no, I'm pretty keen on Marvellous if it comes up soft. You got some other news about Al Khazim as well.
Yeah, Al Khazim last year was retired, sent to stud, and failed at that, was infertile at stud, and wasn't the only one to come back this season with reckless abandon. But Al Khazim makes his seasonal reappearance in the listed Doombar Stakes at Newbury over the extended mile and 2. He faces a maximum of 9 opponents on Saturday. Okay, it's not the quality of race that he's used to running in. The second highest rated is 115, that's Vancouverite. But then he's taken on the likes of Nabucco, who gets some weight from Amrala, Baltic Knight, Battle of Marengo.
Do we think, though, that the Roger Charlton has come out and said, you know, the horse is going to be overweight and not race fit. Do you think it sort of balances up a little bit, that
£9? No doubt it will balance it up and it'll give more of a chance to the others. But it could just be a case that Khazim still, if he still retains that ability, that's the main thing. If he still retains the ability and his love for racing, he's going to be a very hard horse to beat on Saturday.
It'll be very interesting because there's going to be a lot of avenues open. If Khazim comes back, we know that it's going to get better as the season unfolds. This is a big race in terms of not necessarily the quality, but just to see how Khazim does on Saturday.
We mentioned the point earlier off air about the likes of George Washington, Star Spangled Banner, who failed at stud. Star Spangled Banner, it's hard to believe, failed at stud. He's got his small progeny coming through now, but they came back from failing at stud and never really the same horse, were they? Star Spangled Banner ran in the Breeders' Cup and didn't really light up the world, did he?
It's a race to watch, isn't it? It's a race to watch and just hope that Khazim comes to best. Because let's not forget, last season Khazim had a tough season. Early part of it was fantastic, but as the season went on, you know, some would say disappointed as the season went on.
Let's not forget, one of the excuses last year was the ground. It was just too many runs on fast ground. And
but maybe there's questions whether the horse should have run on that kind of ground.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to be fast on Saturday unless we get a deluge later on in the week. Obviously, we've got 2 days until the race. But how fit would Khazim have to be to win this? 75% fit? Would he still beat these kind of horses?
It's going to be a fascinating question to answer. Those questions will be answered on
Saturday on Bet Race Nation. And one more horse that's going to be returning to our track slightly later in the year is Sizing Europe, who Alan Potts, his owner, after winning at Punchestown in the Champion Chase, said that we will likely retire him. And we all sort of took that as...
When you're saying you're likely to retire... it indicates we are going to retire.
Yeah, you'd think it's going to retire, but we have a quote from Henry de Bromhead, Sizing Europe's trainer, of course, at Killarney on Thursday, saying, "I've been saying all year that he's in unbelievable form, and the plan at the moment is that he'll come back in training and go for the race at Gowran Park that he's won for the last 3 years. That's the PwC Champion Chase at Gowran." Now, he showed he was still in good form and still in love with the sport at the back end of last year when winning at the Punchestown Festival. Surely, it was a logical thing to keep him in training. He's obviously shown his well-being at home.
Yeah, I think obviously the age and obviously something's happened, you know, in the last couple of months for connections to change their mind. Because I think even by the comments, you know, we can take it as standard that the plan was to retire, and the horse must be showing something at home, and you know, and I wouldn't put it past the old boy to actually win a race early part of the season. I'm sure a race will be found.
I think you've worded that well, win a race. Probably not the top class races like mixing it with Side Degree, Sprint Sacre in the 2-mile division. Maybe a Ryanair if something came up right, but he probably wouldn't be top class as he showed last year, but he still retains plenty of ability, doesn't he?
He does. There's one other story, and this obviously relates to the tote, sort of an individual backed Fairy in the Wind, winner of a Worcester race, and the odds were 9-2, but they were astonished to find out they got 1-10 return. Tote are looking into it, but it's not the first time this has happened.
No, it's not.
And if you are betting on the tote, you've got to be careful of those kind of things when you go racing.
Yeah, well, as most of us will know, the tote, obviously, you don't take a fixed price, do you? It's a pool bet, so you take whatever price, or you take an SP basically with the tote.
And to be fair to them, it can work in the favour. They have the exacta, they have the straight forecast, and on the exacta and straight forecast, there's not much of a variance, but sometimes the exacta could be far higher than the straight forecast. It's sometimes, obviously, I'm sure they will address the issues in relation to this specific horse, and you know, there was a horse here, Sir Mark Prescott trained, Slip of the Tongue, that was a winner at Savile as well.
There's another one that I wanted to mention, an example. In the 740 at Haydock in June, there was a horse called Proclamation of War who came second to a horse called Regiment by 2 1/4 lengths. 14-1 was the starting price, came second on the tote, paid £18.30.
For a place?
For a place.
There you go.
So you got a bigger price than the starting price, and he didn't win. So it could work both ways, but you just have to be very careful when you're looking at tote
Absolutely.
betting.
And you can go from one extreme to the other extreme.
Exactly. Well, that about rounds it up, isn't it?
It does. And we'll be back on Sky 212. We're there every Saturday. We've got trainer interviews, jockey interviews, and of course we've got the BRM panel. So we'll see you on Sky 212 on Saturday.